Welcome to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK. Now today I'm going to be showing you how you can make your very own cable and crossed square, and this easy to make square is suitable for adding into blankets and your crochet afghans, alongside using them in lots of different garments as well. So this stitch that we're using today, there's two different stitches in here, and we're using the cable stitch, which is this one here, and the crossed double crochet, or the crossed treble crochet in UK terms. So we're going to cover both of these stitches and create either size of the square. So this, you have the two different size options available for you with this one. You've got either a 7-inch square or an 8-inch square. And I'm going to take you through both of them, if I remember to tell you both the stitches as we go through. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that notification bell and of course hit the subscribe button. That way you won't miss out on another one of my crochet tutorials again. Let's gather the materials that we need to get started, and then we can crack on with this cute crochet square. So the materials that I'm going to be using for this tutorial is one of my favourites. I use it very much on this channel, and it is of course the PaintBox yarns, but this time we're using an Aran weight yarn, which is the same as a size 4 or a worsted in the US terms, as it says here on the label. Now this is 100% acrylic. You can of course use any fibre you'd like, but match up the fibres within your project too. And we're going to be using the recommended hook size for this yarn, which is a 5mm crochet hook. You're going to need a pair of scissors and of course a darning needle as well, but we're going to make this in one shade today. Because I've got my light coloured hook, I'm going to make mine in this beautiful colour here, which is shade number 245, which I believe is, I want to say pale lilac. I think that's the name of it. So we're going to make this plain coloured one here, but I will tell you how you can make your colour changes and how you can also carry the yarn up the side so there are less ends to weave in. So gather all of those materials and we're going to get started. So I'm going to be using my Furls crochet hook. They are my absolute favourite, and with these streamlined, the resin streamlines, they're really smooth when you're working with this type of acrylic yarn. So to make this, we're going to start making this pattern now. Let's do it together. We start by making a slip knot, just by bringing that working yarn through that loop and placing that onto our crochet hook and tightening it on. Now, as I've mentioned, there are two different sizes that we're going to be making. I'm going to give you the smaller size, which is a 7-inch square, followed by the 8-inch square throughout this pattern. And I'm also going to be using US crochet terms. I'll try and give you the UK ones as I remember as well. If you would like to see the written pattern for this, and of course some patterns that you can use this beautiful square in, feel free to head to the description box and you'll find a link to the written pattern and to my website, where you will find lots of other ideas on more free crochet patterns too. So to start this pattern, for the 7-inch square, we're going to make a chain of 23, and for the 8-inch square, we're going to make a chain of 27. I'm making the 7-inch square, so I'm going to make a chain of 23. So we simply yarn over the hook, bring it through that loop on our hook 23 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is number 23 for me. So if you're doing the 7-inch square, you need to have a chain of 23, and for the 8-inch square you'll need a chain of 27. Now we're going to work back into our chain, and it's up to you whether or not you work under that top loop or into the back loop. If this is a standalone make, I would suggest that you work into the back loop of your chain, but because I'm going to be joining this to lots of other squares, I'm just going to work under that top loop for a bit of quickness. Now this loop on our chain never counts as a stitch, and of course the first chain we're not going to work into. For this pattern we're going to work into the second chain from hook, and we're simply going to work one single crochet into that first chain. So we just insert the hook, yarn over, bring that loop up, yarn over the hook and pull through 2. So that's a US single crochet, a UK double crochet. We're going to work one single crochet into each chain all the way down to the beginning. So we're going to under that loop, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. So continue to work down your chain working 1 single crochet into each chain across, and I will meet you back ready for row 2. So at the end of row 1, you should have a total of 22 stitches if you are making the 7-inch square, or 26 stitches if you're making the 8-inch square. Going into row 2, we start by making a chain of 3. So we yarn over the hook and bring our loop through 3 times. And this chain 3 counts as our double crochet here and throughout the pattern. We're then going to turn our work and go straight into row 2. As this chain 2 counts as our stitch, we don't need to worry about this stitch here. We're going to work across this pair, because row 2 we're going to work cross double crochets all the way across. So for the cross double crochet, we skip the first stitch, we yarn over the hook and insert our hook into that next, or the 3rd chain along. We insert the hook, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over again and pull through the remaining 2 loops, and then we're going to cross back, which is why it's called the cross double crochet, into that stitch that we skipped. So we yarn over the hook, insert from front to back into that skipped stitch, we yarn over and working around that previous stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that creates those crossed double crochets. Now you can see here it looks really tempting to work into this stitch here, but we have to ignore that. We're going to go on to that next pair of stitches. So we skip the next stitch that's not been worked into and insert our hook after yarning over into that next stitch and work our US double crochet, yarn over and insert our hook into that skip stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that completes our next pair. And we continue to work all the way down to our last stitch. We should have 1 stitch remaining at the end of our last cross double, and we're going to meet there. So continue to work, making sure that you don't work into that stitch you've already worked into. Skip 1, double crochet into the next, yarn over and work back into that skip stitch, and I'll meet you all the way back for that last stitch of row 2. So at the end of row 2 I've still got 1 stitch remaining, and I have all these lovely crossed double crochets, and we're simply going to work one double crochet or 1 US treble crochet into that last remaining stitch, and that completes row 2. I love this stitch so much. Now row 3 is nice and simple. We are going to chain 1, turn our work, and then we're simply going to work 1 US single crochet, 1 UK double crochet into the top of each stitch along. So our stitch count doesn't change. So at the end of this row 3 we should still have a stitch count of 22 for the 7-inch square and 26 for the 8-inch square. So continue to work all the way down, and I'll meet you after row 3 ready for row 4. At the end of row 3 it is important to note we need to work into the top of that chain 3. So make sure that you've inserted your hook into the top of that chain 3 to work your last stitch before double checking your stitch count of 22 or 26 if you're making the 8-inch square. And we are ready to go into row 4. Just like we did for row 2, we're going to start by making our chain 3. So we just yarn over, pull through 3 times, and then we can turn our work, ready to work row 4. Now row 4 we're going to make the cable stitch. So again this chain 3 doesn't count, so that stitch has been used by putting that chain 3. The cable stitch is worked across 4 different stitches, 1, 2, 3 and 4. We start by skipping that first stitch and working 1 double crochet into the next. We're going to work 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches all together. So that's 1, 2 and 3. So we now have 3 stitches and our original starting chain 3 and a big hole. We're going to fill that big hole in by working like we did with the cross double crochet, by skipping all the way back to that missed stitch. So we're going to yarn over the hook and insert our hook into that stitch that we've skipped. We're going to yarn over, bring our loop up, and we're going to make sure we've not got a lot of tension on, because we want to bring it up to the height of those other stitches. So I'm kind of just making sure that it's been pulled up high enough, and then we yarn over and pull through 2 like we would normally, and yarn over, pull through 2, and that completes the cable element of that stitch. Should we do another one together? Now you can see here, remember we've worked into that stitch already, so we don't count that one. We're going to skip the next stitch, yarn over, insert our hook into the next, work our 3 double crochets, so that's 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and then we're going to cable around these 3 stitches. So we yarn over and we're heading back all the way over there with our hook. So we're going to insert our hook into that stitch. I'm going to release my tension in my hand to bring up a nice big loop, so we've got the hook back to the same height. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2 to complete that stitch. So you can now see we've got 2 of those cable stitches, and we're just going to repeat that the whole way along. So we've worked into this stitch, you can see you've got that stitch coming out of it, so we skip that one and we double crochet into the next 3 stitches. That's that 3rd double crochet, and we're going to work all the way back. So we've yarned over, insert our hook into that skip stitch, yarn over, loosen our tension. Ooh, loosened it a little bit too much, and bring that loop up to the height of our project or the row that we're working on. Yarn over, pull through those first 2, yarn over, pull through those last 2. So just going to continue to work that all the way along, and by the end of the row you should just have 1 stitch remaining, ready to work 1 double crochet into that last stitch. So I'll meet you at the end of row 4. I'm just working my last double crochet into that last remaining stitch, and you can see that that's my row 4 completed. And as you can see, I've got my 5 cables, and if I was making an 8-inch square I would have 6 cables. So just double check you've got the right counts there. And then going into round 5, it's that nice easy one. We're just going to repeat row 3. We work our chain 1. We're going to turn and work 1 US single crochet, 1 UK double crochet into each stitch across. So work all your single crochets, and I'll meet you at the end of row 5. So at the end of row 5, you should have all your normal stitch count still. So you should have 22 single crochets for the 7-inch square and 26 single crochets for the 8-inch square. Now to continue this square, you simply repeat rows 2 to 5 for a total of 17 rows. But on the 7-inch square, you're going to end on row 3, and then on the 8-inch square, you repeat all the way up to number 5. So we've already worked, if I show you on this one here, you've already worked rows 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5, and we're going to repeat from the cross double, which was row 2. You can find the chapter just below, and we're going to repeat that 3 more times. Is that right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. So for the 8-inch, we repeat all of it 3 more times, and that will give you a total row count of 17. but on the 7-inch square we repeat it 2.5 times is the easiest way of explaining it. We've already done the first repeat. We're going to repeat it again all the way up. We're going to repeat rows 2 to 5 twice more, and then we just repeat rows 2 and 3, ending on that single crochet row. All the rows are chaptered below for you, and then once you've reached the end of all your rows, you can just fasten off and weave in those ends. Now, to check that your square is square, the easiest way of doing it is just bringing the opposite corner down, and your edges should meet. If you need to continue to do more repeats to make the project square, you can do so, but that is the easiest way of checking. I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you do need a photo tutorial or anything else that's a bit easier for you, please head on over to the link in the description box and you'll be able to find out more ways of using this beautiful square, as well as some other patterns that feature this beautiful cable and crossed stitch. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you all again very soon for another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK.